Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. Thank you for tuning in to Buchona Budgets. If you are a returning viewer, thank you so much for your support. And if you are new, welcome to my channel. I hope you will enjoy this journey to financial freedom and financial stability. So today guys, I am so excited to share with you my budget worksheet. My budget worksheet is pretty much a worksheet that I created based on a 50-30-20 rule. So it all started with my journey to become more financially stable and debt-free. And I found myself taking on budgets and going through them but not sticking to them. I also found that some of the things didn't really suit my needs. So I took the things that I felt did suit my needs and I kind of threw them into this budget worksheet. As it stands and at a first glance, it can look a little complicated because it does have percentages and numbers, but I really believe that once I explain every step to you guys, you would understand it a little bit better. So I do want to in the future go ahead and fill it out and complete it with you guys so that you can see how it actually works. But today I want to focus on breaking down the budget worksheet for you guys. Okay, I want to go down every section and explain how you would use that specific section. I want you to be able to use it to your utmost advantage. I had purchased some things, regarding budget material, ended up not using half of it because I only got so far, didn't really understand it because I did see it and it's kind of hard to put things together the way that were intended to work, especially if you don't have a clear understanding about it. Now, that isn't to say that this budget worksheet may not be for you. This is just something that I created because I saw the need in every category. I suited it to every need of mine. And I realized that once I started to apply this method, I started to save more, guys. And I actually my husband and I managed together to pay off one major debt that we had. In any case, I found that this worked for me, and I found not only that it worked for me to pay off debt, but it also worked for me as far as savings. Majority of the time, guys, I was just worried about paying my debts. And although I am in full support of that, you guys have to remember that you are also living for today. A lot of the budgets show you or teach you that you need to save, which is absolutely important. I agree that it is important for us to save for the future, but you also cannot forget that you live in the present time. Let's be honest, those of us who have children like I do can understand that the kids are growing. They're not going to be 5, 6, or 7, or 8, or 9 any longer. Time waits for no one, and it's important that we set aside a little bit of our finances and a little bit of our time to enjoy those moments that will never be returned to us. So that being said, let's go ahead and go down category by category on the worksheet, and I will put up a video next time regarding how to complete it and how to adjust it. In fact, I plan to open up a section where you guys can send me your financial information, as vague or as broad as it may be, and we can fill it out to accommodate and we can suggest on how to do it. This being said, I am not a financial advisor. This is just a system that I created that works for me. And let's start off at the very top where it says budget worksheet. Of course, you would add the date because you do want to have a log of how you are doing. This actually motivated and helped me a lot, guys. I know it seems very simple, but the fact that I kept track of the date and how I was doing on my payments, it was so exciting when I got towards the end of my truck payment. And I was like, wow, I did this way back when, and I'm actually accomplishing this. So it was very exciting, guys. Please make sure to complete your date on there so that you are able to look back and reflect and be motivated for that. for the purpose of continuing. Okay, that is one of the things that I saw. I lacked motivation once I started. It was more the budget seemed so rigid to me, and I felt so lost at times that I just ended up giving up. So please stay motivated, keep track, keep your trackers when you start filling out financial trackers. Keep your budget worksheets, just so that you have a record of where you were to where you are presently. Okay, so as far as the worksheet goes, we go ahead and complete the date, and then we move over to, if you see here on the left hand side, it says frequency, income 1, and income number 2. So frequency, you would write a note as to whether this is weekly or this is monthly or it's bi-weekly, whatever the cycle of your income is. Well, what actually is income? Income is any source of money that comes into your house. I personally use net pay, which is the income after the taxes are taken from the check, versus the gross income. Because how many of us receive perhaps that type of income, and when it comes, it's just like, well, it came and it went. There was no plan for it, and therefore we have nothing to show for it. At least that was my situation. I had no plan for my finances, and therefore they came and went just as easily as they arrived. So what I typically do, guys, is I will take, for example, if it is child support, I would put C/S. I already know just off the top of my head that's short for child support. And then I write the amount here. Or there was also a time where I was working at a skating rink, and I would put the name of the skating rink. So it's just so that you know where your income is coming from. Any source of income, any monies that are coming in and you want to track where they are from, just annotate and put the amount. And then down here in total A, you would go ahead and add it up together. All of my totals on here are so important, guys. The reason I want to emphasize this a little bit is because that's one of the things that I struggled with so much. There were different things I needed to list under certain categories, but then when it came to the totals, I'm like, what am I doing? It was just so confusing. So I went ahead and made this a little bit more visually attractive to me, which is, in bold letters, this is your A total. Okay, so my A total basically identifies any source of income coming into the household for that frequency period. So for example, if I was doing my child support, it would be monthly. In my case, monthly child support, the amount, and any work income if I'm going to budget it that month. Typically what I do is I will budget the entire month with my husband and I's work income. And then when the child support comes in, I just budget it out by itself. And you guys will see that in the videos as we move forward. The next thing you will do is move down. Okay. You would move down to the expenses. So I'm going to cover this just to make it a little bit more clear. As you see here, I have a big 50%, okay, listed in bold so that you know to look at this number. Okay, remember, I am using the 50-30-20 method, so that means that 50% of my total income has to cover any mandatory expenses. So we're talking rent, mortgage payments, utilities, maintenance, food, obviously, clothes, insurance, and any legal obligation payments. So say, for example, if your spouse has a child support payment to make or an IRS payment to make, then that would be in this 50%. As you see down here, DEP 1, DEP 2, DEP 3. These are just my particular DEPs. and the ones that I am working on. So I include them in here. And whenever I cannot make the payment or do not need to make the payment because I've already covered it in another sheet or in another payment, then I just leave it blank, but I have it there. And for the most part, I wanted to leave it because I figured that most of us have at least 1, 2, or 3 debts outstanding. So I don't want to forget that the debt goes into this expense, this mandatory expense category. So I just left it in there. Okay. So one of the things that I want to mention is that when you look at the worksheet and you start, the first thing that I suggest that you guys do before you even write the date, before you even fill in the frequency and the income amount, is go onto the actual sheet itself and highlight, especially if it's your first time or second time, until you get the hang of it. Highlight the percentages. Okay, so in my expense category, I have 50, and then I have 30. Okay, and then down here, I'll explain this in a minute, I divide up this 30% to 20% and 10%. It's still under my savings category. Okay, and then moving up here, I have my 20%, and this is my investing and giving category. Okay, and then down here, I'll explain this in a minute. You'll see different percentages relating to investing and giving. So first things I want you to do is go onto the paper and highlight your percentages. Why? Because that is going to be the most important part of your budget. So once you have your total here, you will move down to your expenses and you will list your expenses. Now remember, if your frequency is weekly, then you're budgeting for that week. If you're budgeting for that month, your expenses have to be divided up accordingly. So for example, if your rent is $1,000 and there are 4 weeks in a month, you would divide that $1,000 by the 4 weeks so that you have the amount that you're supposed to take out that week if your frequency is weekly. If it's monthly, then you would use the entire amount. Okay, so with the percentages, you would go back to the original amount. So let's say, for example, my amount here was $2,000. My 50% is going to be from $2,000. When I come down here, my 30% is going to be from $2,000. When I come down here, I'm not going to take 20 from my 30 or 10 from my 30. I'm going to go directly to my 2,000. So all of the percentages are going to go back to the main number, okay, to avoid any confusion. So with the savings part, guys, now we're at the savings part. Forget about the percentages for now. We're at the savings part. My savings are divided into several categories, guys, and these are just categories that have already been invented, but I just renamed them for my brain to remember them, and I just keep them like this because it works for me and it helps me to remind myself or correlate what I was originally intending to do. In other words, E-Fund may look familiar to you and it's just my emergency funds. I really believe that the things that you say will manifest into life, that our words are spirit that take the life form. So I don't like to outright say emergency. I just say E-Fund. And obviously I know that that stands for emergency. So my savings consists of these categories here. This is the E-Fund. My PS20 fund is because I know that once I am completely debt-free, I can save 20% to my personal savings. Okay, this is for my personal savings. So if you look at it, personal savings 20, so 20%. So I just named it PS20 fund. It just reminds me that, hey, I do contribute to this, even though I am, but I'm not completely debt free, and I'll explain that later in future videos, how that works. And so for the most part, just to give you a little bit of the info, you know, a lot of it is debt that I owe to myself, not to lenders or lenders that are charging me interest. It's money that I've loaned to myself from my savings. So for my PS 20 fund, and then I list them here so that I can decide at the time that I am completing my worksheet where and how much I am contributing to every area. So the next area is a month ahead. Guys, I cannot stress this one enough. I know that a lot of people are really hard on, hey, let's get our emergency fund saved up. And, you know, it's so necessary and it's important, but no one talks about the month ahead, or my Super Fund 36 that I like to call it. My Super Fund 36 is basically 3 to 6 months ahead. And I just put a super fund because this is a regular fund, and in my mind it just worked super fund. It's like super fun because it's 3 to 6 months. Guys, I cannot stress this one enough. Long story short, many years ago, I was hospitalized, was in the hospital for a good amount of 4 months, 80% of it in the ICU, and thankfully, I don't know how my husband did it. He's a Superman, because honestly, I don't know how he did it, but we were not ready. We were not ready for that 4-month stay in the hospital. And I promised myself that I would never allow my family to find themselves in that situation ever again. And it's for that very reason that right now I am currently taking steps and strides towards our month ahead goal and our super fund. So that means that I am saving for both simultaneously. Okay. Now it doesn't mean that they are large amounts. You'll see in the future videos that they're not very large amounts. In fact, I make it so easy that I am able to contribute to some extent to each of these funds. Okay. And not because there's a ton of money coming in. It's because of the way that it's divided. It's because of the consistency. It's because of the discipline. And you guys, if you want to get serious about your finances and you really want to set financial goals for yourself and your family, you have to get serious about it. You have to have some sort of discipline, and you have to have consistency. Consistency is key. I cannot emphasize that enough. So that being said, I'm working towards my month ahead and my Super Fund 36. Other savings, I would list here, other savings that, are personal to me, whatever have you, or any other savings that are not mentioned here that you want to contribute would go under here. So if you look really quick before I move on, notice in big bold letters your A total, your B total, and your C total. Okay. I tried to make that bold so that we are able to, if you notice down here in this worksheet, which we haven't gotten that far yet, but B total, C total, D total, and then all of your totals here should add up to your income amount. Okay, so this way we know that we are accounting for every single dollar that comes in that you include in your budget. We are accounting for it. We're telling it. We're drawing up a plan for that money so that when that money comes, it doesn't just come and leave you. So that you have something to show for you and for your family and for your future. It is so important that we learn so that we can also teach our family members and our children how to do the very same thing. In fact, that is one of the reasons that I became motivated, was because coming from a background of immigrant parents, I spent my summers growing up helping my parents. And so the last thing on my parents' mind was how to create a budget, how to manage finances. They were just trying to survive. And because I never learned those things, I was never able to properly teach my children. until I started to do a lot of research and teach myself. I emphasize research because I am a paralegal and I do know how to research, thankfully, and I went ahead and did that and taught myself. And because of that, I can tell you that my children have their own savings. They are people who also give. They are people who have a discipline when it comes to finances. And this is that they're not even holding jobs yet. They're still preteens. The money that they sort out is money that they receive from their parents, of course, or from gifts, birthdays, holidays, etc. There was a point in time where when I was trying to get out of debt, I believe my 15-year-old had more money saved up than I did. So that was pretty funny and exciting. But that is no longer the case, but I am proud of her for doing that. So moving on. So one of the things with investing and giving, guys, is that a lot of people have a belief of tithing, and that is something that is biblical. And I totally respect that. I totally believe in it. And it's basically making a sacrifice for some portion of your income, and it forces us to rely solely on God to meet our every single need. Now, guys, giving can be so hard, especially if you have never done this before, especially when you have a limited amount of money. But I want to encourage you, this 10% that you give is going to be completely, I can sit here and just tell you testimony upon testimony upon testimony, especially when I was trying to get out of debt. You will see on some of my past worksheets and future videos that I hardly had anything left over. And I still continued, and let me tell you, God opened doors, touched people's hearts. People would come out of nowhere to ask if we were available to do a job. I mean, just trusting God in the midst of it all. And giving is so important. We actually practice this in our family because of our faith. And I have taught my kids to give. In fact, my kids have all chosen a particular charity, but they all have charities that they are saving up to send one big check to. Now, I told my kids that they can save it up until they reach a certain amount, and then we could purchase a money order and we can send it off. Or in your case, if you wanted to wait until you hit a certain amount, or you wanted to give it out on a daily basis, or you want to buy coffee for somebody at Starbucks, or you want to bless somebody that you see on the street, you can use your discernment or your discretion to establish how you're going to give that amount. Now, you'll notice that there are two amounts here. And the reason for the two amounts is because there is a difference between tithing and an offering. Okay, so tithing, like I mentioned before, is basically you sacrificing a certain amount of your income. So you may want to give 10%. Now remember, the 20% we are doing here, this is for investing and giving. So you would take 10% of your giving if you're going to just give. The reason I have the 5%, is because this is more of an offering, guys, and this is what I do. Not because it's a less amount, it's actually more, guys. So offering is basically 5% and beyond. So the reason I do 5% is because I usually give in an excess of 10%, and that usually comes from money that I have in my personal savings. So when I go to budget my budget worksheet, I will do the 5% because I always give in an excess of the 10%. So the important thing here is that your numbers here add up to 20. Okay, so you can't do 15% investing and 15% giving. I mean, you could technically, but in order for the percentage or the number to work, it needs to add up to 20%. So it's either 10 plus 10 or 15 plus 5. That is the point, right? We want to become so financially free that we can bless others, right? So this is the way I do it. So that means that if I do the 5% offering, that means that I do 15% investing all the time. Okay, so in my daughter's case, She does 10% investing and 10% tithing. Okay, so technically, a lot of the financial articles that I've read recommend investing 12 to 15% of your income, but 10%. But you investing 10% is absolutely amazing and better than you contributing zero, right? So retirement is going to happen. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when it happens. We need to have something set aside for that. Us, especially the Latino community, like I said, with me having immigrant parents, this retirement thing is not something that we ever discussed or talked about. Okay, it was just trying to survive, guys. And so I find it so necessary because of the situation that I mentioned before with the medical stuff, guys. Like, I need to be able to rely on myself so that I have a decent life towards my older years. So I need to be prepared for that, because it's not a matter of is it coming, it's when it gets here, I need to be prepared. So investing, guys, like I said, I am not a financial advisor, but things like a Roth IRA or an IRA, and you guys, once you meet your goal, like for example, my goal right now is 6,000, and I am working slowly but surely towards that goal. Okay. And when I get there, I will do my financial research and go to different, banks, etc., to learn more and talk to a financial advisor that actually knows what they're doing with the investments and stuff of that nature. Right now, I'm just worried about saving towards that goal. So that being said, this is the percentage that I either invest or give, and then you'll look here will be your total. Okay. Now this section right here, I'm going to cover this just so you guys are able to focus visually on this. This section right here is just a little square, which is your grand total square. And if you look here, it has an E total and an F total. Okay. So here, in order to get your E total, you're going to add your B, your C, and your D. So your B plus your C plus your D total to get your E. You would write down your amount here, how much these categories are together, and then you would go back and look at A. So you're going to do A minus E. So A, your total income amount, minus whatever amount you got here in E. And that will give you your plus or minus, guys. Guys, when you get here, please don't be discouraged. I cannot tell you how many times I did this worksheet and I'm like, I must be doing something wrong because this thing is not adding up. I was in the negative. I was in the hole. And so what I learned was that if I was in the negative, either I am spending on things that are not mandatory or absolutely necessary to survive, or I need a higher income, right? So that means if I needed to do a yard sale, if I needed to do Uber Eats, if I needed to, babysit for the weekend, if I needed whatever I needed to do in order to come up with the amounts that I need to cover my budget worksheet, then that's what I need to do. This amount here will give you your positive or your negative amount. Don't be discouraged. If you find that you are in the negative, go back and look at your expenses. Also, we'll discuss in future videos, like ideas on how to lower your expenses. There's so many things that we can do to lower our expenses. Okay. And maybe get a side hustle, maybe have a yard sale, maybe find something to make this work. Because when I tell you that I was not there, guys. I wanted to cry. I cried. I'm not keeping that to myself. I cried. My daughter knows I've cried on many occasions when it comes to doing my worksheet. And it's because, guys, this worksheet kind of slaps you in the face It forces you to look at your finances. It forces you to do something, to have a plan with your money. And we're not just taking the money and throwing it and, wasting it on things that we don't need, just a second pair of God knows what that we bought in the dollar store that we didn't need, but we bought again, just it just is such a reality check. And sometimes that's what we need to happen, guys. We need a reality check, because otherwise, if you don't hit rock bottom, the only way to go is up, right? So if you don't hit rock bottom, it's like you just never see it. So I cried many times. Please don't give up. Please find ways to make this number positive. Okay? And when you do, make that number positive, which is what I am currently working on. You can move on to your sinking funds. There'll be times where you can't afford to do this right now. Sinking funds are basically a strategic way to save money by setting it aside just a little bit at a time for a specific purpose. Okay, usually I don't include money from my budget. So that means I don't take any money from here or from my investing. I don't take any money from here to do this. Essentially, my goal is to be positive here. So if I'm positive and I'm over, then I can take that money and put it into my sinking funds. If this is your first time budgeting, you may find that you're not in the positive here, but the goal is to get there. Okay, once we start getting rid of our debt and once we start. So you may not be able to do sinking funds right away. How do we create that sinking fund, right? Like, name your envelope and then decide how much you need to save. So for example, if you're saving up for birthdays, and that birthday is coming up within 6 months, and you have a goal of $50, right, for that month. So it's 6 months away. It would be $50 divided by 6 months. So for every month, you would need to save at least $8.33 so that you have the $50 that you need to cover that birthday gift in 6 months. So you would decide the amount of money you need and divide it by the total number of either weeks or months that you have left until you actually need the money. This will come with time. Be patient with yourself. More than being patient, be consistent. Like I said before, if you see that you're in the negative, try and do side hustles. Try and do yard sales. Try and maybe go through your house and see things that you don't like anymore. You can sell things in a pawn shop. There's so many things that you can try and do to increase that income amount so that you work off or take off your debt. And so that later on, when you don't have as much debt or any debt at all, you will be able to focus solely on sinking funds. For example, birthdays, Christmas, plane tickets, even vacations. You can, set up a vacation sinking fund, a clothes fund, a back to school fund, concert tickets, like when our favorite artist is coming into town and we want to go. But guys, let's learn to be responsible and manage our finances accordingly, right? Because we're not going to choose to go to a concert over putting food on the table, right? But if we plan ahead and we know that, hey, this artist is coming, because remember we said we want to live life, right? We don't want to forget that we have to live our life to the fullest and to be happy and to be enjoyable. And that's the amazing part of this budget for me. It gives us a space. If you notice, going back to the savings, there's an item there called pocket money. Okay, and that pocket money is actually allowing me a 10% from that income so that I am able to buy my coffee if that's what I want. So that I am able to, I don't know, go to Ulta and get me a lip liner if that's what I want. For example, one of my splurges is a Dior lip gloss. That is a pricey one. Well, I have a sinking fund for it that I plan ahead. I budget it out. And maybe this is something that I can save from this, right? I can create a sinking fund maybe for my Dior lip balm, right? And I know that it cannot be in excess of 10% because I'm only allowed a certain amount. So if I want to take $5 from my 10% pocket money and put it towards my sinking fund, I can do that. It's totally feasible. The budget is not to restrict you. The budget is to just give you a game plan for your money. Now, as we said before, guys, just really quick, as we said before, if you look at the percentages, it's divided up to 50, 30, 20, but our savings is broken down to 20 and 10, and then our investing and giving are also broken down. But remember when we said if we were negative here, it's okay if you're negative, because guess what? It's negative here, but you're really not negative. It's negative on paper, and this is what kept me going, because you're negative on paper, but look at your e-fund. You've saved an X amount by doing this all the time. Look at your personal savings. Look at your month ahead. You're making small steps. So yes, you're negative, but you're not. So let this be an encouragement. You're also blessing others by giving, and you're also saving towards your investment, towards your future, towards your retirement, so that you have a dignity in your elder years. Okay? It's important, guys. I mean, let's make a game plan for this, and let's do it together. Let's make a game plan for your money and your family and your future. And I hope that this video encourages families, and even if you're young girls, or even if you're young ladies. I mean, my kids are literally preteens, and they divide up their percentages all the time. And they're probably a lot younger than most of my viewers. But they have a heart of giving. And because of that giving, God blesses them and puts them in places to be blessed. They're saving up, even though they're so young, they're saving up for their investments. Now, granted, when we started this, they weren't clear what they were saving up for. They just knew the word investing. And now that they're bigger, they're getting to understand it a little bit more, but they already have money saved up towards that. The sooner you start for investing, the earlier you start in life, the better. So this is why I encouraged them to do it as well. They each have a savings, guys. They each have a savings. Obviously, they don't pay any expenses, but they do divide up their percentages. And we actually call their expenses their consumption money. That's the way I started it with them. It was a term that I used to show them that that's the money that you're allowed to consume. So that's the money that you set aside for that specific purpose, and you are not allowed to touch your savings, your investings, or your giving. Okay, so I hope that you guys find this budget worksheet interesting, and I hope that we can go through it, and I want to use it as an example with different circumstances, so that you guys get used to how to use it, and so that you guys can get started on your own savings, right? So when we do the worksheet, it doesn't necessarily have to be that you have the worksheet, just work off the percentages, right? So that being said, thank you so much for being here, guys. I am so excited, and I cannot wait to start filling out this budget worksheet with you guys and start making a plan for your financial future. I am so grateful for each and every one of you, and I really hope that we can change the future for ourselves and our families. And I want to encourage you to move forward and to press forward with your dreams. Thank you so much for being here, guys, and we will see you next time.